Hey folks, welcome to the Wall Racing channel. Today we're going to be doing another garage project out here with you. Stick around, grab your favorite beverage, kick your feet up and enjoy. We're going to be customizing some demolition derby wheels. We're going to be putting in some universal centers for those in order to make them bolt on to multiple different cars for the same set of wheels. And then we're also going to narrow them up as well. And that way you can keep the beads seated on some of these narrow tires like these BKT 550 15s that we like to run on the front of our cars. And also space out your wheels from some of those suspension components under the hood as well. Stick around and enjoy. So why would you want to do any of this customizing to your wheels? Well, I'll say this is one that I already have done from last year that I ended up building the same way. And we'll show you exactly how you do this. But with this Chevy SS wheel that I ended up using last year, I ended up cutting the stock center out of it and putting in these multi-pattern centers. So with these, you can run anything from the smallest hole pattern that will bolt onto 5 on 4.5 bolt circles. So like say a stock Crown Vic, which is super common, to small Chevy 5 and 4 3/4. So something like an Olds Cutlass, Chevelle, Monte Carlo, the Chevy Caprice that I have out in the driveway. And the next size up will be your 5 on 5. So something like, I think Imperials have that same size, but anything big bolt GM will be that same size. And that's what these wheels would have been stock from the factory. And then also you have this big hole size, which probably I won't ever use, but that'd be like your big Ford pattern, the 5 on 5.5. That'd be like what comes stock on a Ford 9-inch, or I believe 70s old iron Fords have that pattern as well. But anyway, we're going to be doing that, putting those multi-pattern centers into these in order to be able to bolt them onto any car we want. And as you can see, these tires are pretty narrow here. They're about 5-inch width with these 550 15s that are designed for forklifts. And when you end up doing this, you can kind of see the finished product here with that weld bead around the inside. You'll see that in more detail later. But when you line these up with a stock wheel, you can see there's quite a big difference from like that stock size where it's 7 inches wide to say this tire right here that's about 5 inches. So that's what we're gonna be doing, is we're essentially gonna cut the whole wheel in half here. We're gonna slice it on this outer bead first, then cut this about 2 inches out of there. I got it like 1 3/4 inches to give me some area to grind down, square it up. And then we'll weld it back together, and that'll make it the ideal size for fitting some of these, maybe some of the V-tread tractor tires if you like to use those, or anything else where you might want to have a little bit narrower wheel for your application. Okay, we're back here with the Captain Crunch Caprice. As you can see, wintertime up here in Michigan, so it's a great time to do some of these tedious projects like building your own custom wheels. So let me show you an example here, a difference when you do mount these onto a car. You can see, man, you can just about service the brakes without even taking the wheel off on this thing. But that's some of the spacing that I was talking about, mainly up by like the control arm there. If you have something like an old iron Cadillac, you usually run into space issues with the wheel just about hitting the ball joint. So this will space them out quite a bit running these customized wheels on there. And then compare that with, this one be a 14x6 on this wheel, but you can see it's a little bit closer up there. Really not bad on this car, but others that can cause some clearance issues. So that's just one example of where you'd end up using these versus, say, like a stock Buick Rally wheel. All right, a little fast forward here. I'm out in the shed working on these wheels once again. So here I have the Chevy Super Sport wheels, getting ready to trim the centers out. That's our next part here. I actually use the Dodge SS wheels over here as practice since it's been a minute since I've done this. So I already have the multi-pattern centers welded into those, and after I did that, we went ahead and did the narrowing. So here's kind of your finished result here once we do take our 2-inch chunk out of there and bring these back together, do a lot of precise measuring, and then get that all tacked back together. So those I have done. That'll be the next step, is just trimming out the stock centers in these. And then we'll grind it out, make some room for the multi-pattern centers. So give you a quick before look here. Here's what we're working with. And when you do put those into the middle, you can see the aftermarket one's quite a bit wider than the original here. So We'll cut right around our yellow line that I put on these, just to at least get the center trimmed out, and then it'll take quite a bit of grinding to get it. It's a little ways up this outer lip here that goes to the outside, and get that fitted and ready to be welded in. So at this point, we've ruined a perfectly good wheel. Mission accomplished. Got our stock center trimmed out of it. And next we'll take our angle grinder over here, put a grinding disc on it rather than the cutting wheel, of course. And then we'll make this hole on the inside of the wheel match where this will slip right in there. There are a couple different ways to do this. Some folks, they will. Guy over. We'll just weld this guy flush to the backside and call it good where we're at right now. But of course that changes your offset a little bit on these wheels, so personally I like to grind this flush all the way around where it's the exact size of this guy, where it could, you know, pretty much press fit on in there. And then once you have that, you'll tack it front side, back side, but I'll show you when we get to that part. There we go. So now center's trimmed out, and I got that enlarged with the angle grinder there to make the center fit here. So that's just kind of loosely pressed in right now. So next thing that you'll want to do, you'll take, say, some sort of straight edge. Personally, I'm using a piece of angle steel, something that I know is completely straight. And you'll line that up on the bead of your rim. Of course, it'll be sitting down when I do that. There we go. So I do it like so. Get it lined up side to side there, and then you'll take your measuring tape or whatever straight edge you like, if you have a ruler that you prefer, and measure down to the center up to what you got here with your angle steel or whatever straight edge you choose. And just start making sure that this is squared up side to side. So I'll need to look at this a little closer, do some adjustments to make sure that that's completely square inside the rim. But then you'll do that at a couple different positions, and then measure once again until you got that completely straight. And then once you're pretty confident that that's centered in there, then we'll start tacking it in and go to the next step. Personally, I like to at least weld this outside bead all the way around once I know it's in there, welded, square and all. But after that, we'll do the backside once we do cut this in half, since this set's being narrowed. You wouldn't do that if you're only doing centers. But with the method that we're going about this guy, it's much easier once you cut that inner bead off to weld the backside of this. So, got our SS wheels back here. Did get the multi-pattern centers welded in there, at least on the front side. The back side I do need to finish up yet, but got those two guys ready to go. So next, got this all propped up on top of the toolbox here. And we're going to make our cuts to go ahead and start the narrowing process. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the bottom one here. And once we get nearly all the way through, I'll stack it up on top of these pieces of tubing here, and that'll raise it up just enough where once this does go all the way, it'll just drop down and make that not so dramatic to get that last piece off. And then once we do that, take it and flip it over, and then we'll do the second cut for the top one on the angle that we're looking at here. And that'll take just shy of 2 inches out of this and narrow that guy right up. And I think the other ones ended up like 5 1/4, 5.5 wide, something like that. So that's I think what we'll end up with on this. Stay tuned and watch as we start slicing and dicing these things up. Okay, so I got that done. Now here's the part where you feel like you really messed up because, well, you have 2 halves of a wheel at this point. But we went ahead and trimmed that out of there, that about 2-inch gap. And now that's just right here, a big old ring there. I found out with the last set here that if you cut these up into, say, 4 pieces, that could be pretty good for like a bumper strap or something like that. So no waste in this case. Let's see here. Pull out tape measure. We'll see what we're looking at for distance here. So this went to a 15 by 7 down to, it looks like it'll end up being just over 5 inches there once it's back together. So I did this a little bit different for the other one that I also have video of, so that might be mixed in here between these cuts of the wheels there. But the last time that I did this, so you can see that these kind of overlap, so they don't directly line up once you do cut those out, since there's kind of a taper in of that wheel from the inner bead going toward the center of it there where it's at its lowest point. So actually, what I've found to work best, let me set this off to the side. There we go. So you see that's a little bit narrower on that side. But on the bottom ring here, since this is going to be the where it seats to on the inside, I haven't decided which way I'll do this yet. But what's worked best for me in the past is just putting like a little bead tack, a weld around here in 3 or 4 spots. And that's good enough to hold this down, and then you can get it all squared up. And just like we did with the centers, just a lot of measuring to get everything squared up first, and then start tacking away on it. And then once you do have it tacked all the way around, give it one more measure to make sure they got it all in the right spot, and then weld her all the way around. So we'll take you over there next. I still have one more wheel to cut, but enjoy the part of putting these 2 halves back together. One more tip that I have for you guys here. So while we do have this wheel cut in half, like say if you take what'll become the inner bead off of there, this is the time to do all the welding to the inner side of your multi-pattern center here if you're just replacing them, because it's just about flush with the wheel at this point. So it's going to be the absolute easiest to weld it right now and do a good job. You can see at this one I just kind of tacked it on before to hold everything square before welding the front side, and I'll weld that up before putting the inner bead ring back on. And if you did want to do, say, like a 14-inch conversion, now would also be the time to do that. You'd just cut this inner bead out of a separate 14-inch wheel and weld that to the inside here, and you know, I bet it'd just about line up. I've never done that personally, but I think it would be possible if you wanted to try it. Alright, so after a little delay, here we are. We do have these bad boys all finished up, and between the Chevy pair of Super Sport wheels and then the Dodge SS wheels here as well, got those narrowed up to, I believe it was like 5 1/4 inches that I ended up getting on these. And same with the SS wheels here as well. Got those ready to go to mount up some 550/15 BKT tires or the 5-inch, 15-inch tractor tires, whatever you do decide to use on these cars. So these will be off to their new owner here soon. And I did want to thank all you guys for watching, and do subscribe if you do want to see any more of these Demolition Derby themed videos throughout the year, or whatever fun stuff we're working on in the garage. And last little tidbit here, I do have a theory after working on a bunch of these things. I'm pretty sure that the same manufacturer makes all these different wheels, whether you're doing like the Ford Super Sport style wheels here, which these are actually 7.5 inches tall, to give you a comparison here. That's why we actually narrow these down to get them to the appropriate size for the tires that you're running. But since these designs are so similar, a lot of auto manufacturers, they don't actually make their own wheels. They're farmed out to different companies that end up making all these parts for the manufacturer, like somewhere like TRW Automotive is something that comes to mind that actually builds the auto parts. And pretty sure between the Dodge ones, the Chevy example, and Ford, these are probably all made in the same plant, though at different times. But thanks for watching, and hope you have a great rest of your day.